Hello, so this is kind of my redo video for this discussion because I did notice that I made a ton of mistakes. So I basically just redid the whole thing. So to start out with, for when we're comparing Iowa and Minnesota, we're going to consider that the null hypothesis is true. And then when we're comparing Iowa and Louisiana, the null hypothesis is truly false. So just keep that in mind as I'm going through the video, and I'll kind of repeat that as well. And then, so we'll start out with n equals 25 when comparing Iowa and Minnesota. And again, since I said that the null hypothesis is true when comparing Iowa and Minnesota, I got 5% for the type 1 error, then 95% for the correct decision. And I chose to do this is a type 1 error because we're rejecting the true null hypothesis because we only got 5%. And then for the next one, when n equals 100, again, we're comparing Iowa and Minnesota, so the null hypothesis is true. And I chose to do a type 1 error, which again, I got 5% for this one, and then the correct decision was 95%. And then for when n equals 500, I got the same numbers again. I'm not sure on this one if this is right. I think the first two are, but I don't know if my numbers are correct. But I got 5% for type 1 error and then 95% for the correct decision. And when we're doing since all three of them are the type 1 error, we're rejecting the true null hypothesis. And then we'll go down for comparing Louisiana and Iowa. So again, the null hypothesis is truly false when comparing Iowa and Louisiana. So to start out with n equals 25, I got a type 2 error, and I got 81% for that. And then for the power, I got 19%. And we're failing to reject the false null hypothesis in this one. And then for n equals 500, again, we are failing to reject the false null hypothesis. And I got a type 2, I said it was a type 2 error, and that was 40%, and then the power was 60%. And then when n equals 500, I also got a type 2 error for this, and that was 1%, and the power was 99%. And again, we're failing to reject the false null hypothesis. And then I'll show you my data. I'm pretty sure these numbers are correct, but so this is what I got. So for estimating P, when the total is like 50, 200, or 1,000, just like typed in the same numbers that I got, and then I put it on the graph. So as you can see, let's see, I wrote it in here. So like as the sample sizes increase, the type 1 and type 2 errors decrease. And then to answer the last question, going over the explanation of the impact of using a significant threshold of 0.01 instead of 5%, I said that not as many p-values would fall below 0.01, which would affect whether we reject or retain the null hypothesis. So that's my video. Thanks.